I am affrighted and forlorn when I look at the youth of today. When I was a boy, we were taught to respect our elders, and when I look at today's youth, I wonder what is going to happen to the next generation. Now, that is a quotation, and I'm just wondering if you know who said it. I quoted it the other day to a group, and a little girl raised her hand and said, "My daddy said that." But actually, that was said by the great Hesiod 800 years before Christ. And what it focuses on is that the conflict of generations, the adolescent generational issue, has always been an issue. That we've heard people saying the same kind of things of what's going to happen today when we look at the youth of today. And there's some very, very powerful reasons that is so. That every generation, every adolescent generation, has to go through what we're going to talk about tonight, its identity crisis. And I've entitled this program, "Don't Start the Crisis Without Me." Because if you don't go through it at the proper time and in the proper sequence, you'll have to go through it sometime. And I have literally experienced people going through it in their 40s or 30s or even 50s and 60s. And somewhere in a person's life, they're going to have to ask the question, who am I, where am I going, and who are all you others? The question of, who am I apart from my mother and daddy? Apart from the faith that I was brought up in, apart from the things that I have learned, the values that I have learned. What is it that I believe? What is it I would stake my life on? What is it that I would live and die for? Now, I taught in high school for a number of years. This is a poem by one of my students in about the 9th grade, and it just focuses it beautifully. It's called Lost. And this boy's name is Jack Nunmaker, and he wrote, "Who am I? Am I me? What is my identity? Am I short? Am I tall? Am I anything at all? Have I not a human face, or am I just an empty space? Space or not, I do have fear that I might really not be here. And that's why I search far on my own to find out if I'm not alone. And that is why with certain pills, my self-hunger is fulfilled. With just myself, I try to find the localities of my mind. I seem to feel adults aren't seeing that I am really a human being." And it just was such a beautiful expression of all the issues of this period. This period where, as we have seen up to now, we've really seen up to now in the first 4 programs, childhood. We've looked at hope, which is the ego inner strength that emerges out of the conflict between trust and mistrust. I can trust what's out there, I can hope, because I can get my needs met, the world's trustworthy. The second conflict is between willpower. I can trust myself, autonomy versus shame and doubt. The whole issue of musculature, and child learning to hold on and let go. And then, what kind of a person am I? Identifying with mother or daddy, or beginning to play out, adapting by assimilating, by playing, acting out, fantasizing, locomoting, finding out what kind of a person I am. And what comes out of that is a sense of purpose. And interestingly enough, something I haven't talked about in this series is that there are institutions that support these developmental stages. Remember, we're looking at healthy ego. We're looking at what is it that constitutes a healthy personality. What are the preconditions of being strong in personality? A sense of hope, a sense of willpower, a sense of purpose. And a child in this period sets his sight or her sight on someone, a hero, or someone to identify with. And the institutions that support this would be, the first one would be faith. The parents' faith, a religious system, that there's some kind of hope. See, when we rock children in the night and we say it'll be all right, are we lying to them? I mean, there's an inevitable darkness that is to come, that every one of us have to go through, death. And we rock them to sleep at night. The night is the metaphor of what is to come. Every childhood is a nightmare in a lot of ways, with alligators under the bed and all that kind of stuff. Didn't some of you have alligators? Every time I say that, nobody responds. I think, boy, I'm weird. And you have a few alligators, and I used to think, oh my God, they're under there. I better not drop my hand down, you know, because one whop and they got me. And that's perfectly normal in terms of that stage. Then we talked about going to school. You've left home, and now industry versus inferiority. And the ego strength is competence. I can start something and finish it. I am what I'm given. I am what I will. I am what I imagine. I am what I learn and what I can make. And now we come to puberty. And puberty is characterized not only by a biological change, but by an intellectual change. By the ability now to move out of the real, the concrete real, into the ideal. 11-year-olds cannot abstract the way a person can at puberty. Remember our little example of the 4-year-old and the 8-year-old. Do you have a brother? Does your brother have a brother? And 4-year-old can know he has a brother, but will say his brother doesn't have a brother. You have a brother? Yes, his name is Tom. Does your brother have a brother? No. That's one of the developmental stages. But the developmental stage intellectually that comes after 7 to puberty is hypothetico-deductive reasoning. And the reason adolescents can be idealists and dreamers is because they now can idealize. The future is a problem for the very first time. Really a problem. Because what a youngster is beginning to look at is, okay, I'm going to have to leave home here. Maybe not right away, but within the next decade, I'm going to have to leave home, and I'm going to have to make my way in the world. That's why the conflict of generations is inherent in social living. That's why you need to start the crisis when it should be started. Because each one of those youngsters needs to leave home. And again, remember, this series is for you. What happened to you in your adolescence? Remember the summer of '42? Oh, I love that movie. And American Graffiti, especially American Graffiti. I had guys in my high school just like all those people in American Graffiti. And you know, I can never forget the day that high school ended, and some of those people I have never seen again. Absolutely never seen again. I had a 25th high school reunion, and it was great. Half of my class turned out to be gamblers. They're all retired. They were going around saying, you know, give your name and what are you doing? And I went to St. Thomas High School here, and there were a lot of Italianos, and they're all retired. They're all gamblers. But anyway, the idea of you know, that school ended, and that was a phase of my life. But there was loneliness in that time. And there was pimples. You know, we're talking about pimples now. We're talking about combing your hair for hours. We're talking about the opposite sex and becoming exquisitely conscious of every blemish. We're talking about peer groups. And you see, one of the dynamics here is the peer group, that the peer group almost becomes a parent. As a matter of fact, someone has described it that way, the peer group parent. Because every adolescent has to distance. Theodore Litz at Yale, who's probably one of the greatest researchers on adolescence, says the conflict of generations is inherent in social living. Knowing that I have to leave home, every youngster begins to create, if they're too dependent on their parents, conflict with them. Or if they're too much like their parents. And this is crucial to understand. You know, if little Farquhar has been raised by a daddy who says cleanliness is next to godliness, Farquhar comes in barefooted, all dirty one day. Hi, Dad. He's got identity. He's different. See, and the great danger of this period is negative identity. Going and finding some guerrilla group and joining them and getting identity. This is what Mao Tse-tung understood with the Chinese Red Guard. He could mobilize the whole adolescent nation of China. And Erikson himself, who I've been using in this series as a resource, talks about in childhood society Hitler's imagery in the German youth, and makes the most profound article that I've ever read on how Germany could mobilize an entire adolescent generation behind this idea of, the patria, the fatherland. And in a sense, what Hitler did is he took that whole adolescent generation and he gave them a cause. He gave them something to identify with, to be utterly unique and different. See, interestingly enough, that's what drugs are doing in our generation. And especially the drugs that the parents never used, like marijuana and acid and a number of those kind of drugs. If you didn't use those and your kid starts talking about smoking dope, that can be terribly scary to a parent because it's the unknown. But it gives the child instant identity. Instant identity. I'm somebody. I smoke dope. I'm somebody. I belong to a group and we all sniff glue or whatever. And we all wear blue jeans with, faded blue jeans. Or in my generations, it was pistol pockets and outer seams. Any outer seam people here? And tailor-made pants and ducktails. And you had to have your ducktails just right. All of that's sort of a uniform to be part of the peer group parent. See, nobody leaves home too fast. And I really want you to see this, because when we talk about the next stage next week, and then when we talk about the middle-aged crazies, we're going to be talking about people leaving home and how difficult that is. And see, this is a period where the kid's leaving but wants to stay, so there's lots of ambivalence here. There's desiring heart-to-heart talks with mother on the one hand, and God, here she comes on the other hand. Here they come with your lunch to school. No, don't let anybody see you. I can remember almost hiding in my locker one day. Here came mother with the lunch. And I was out on the patio acting like a guerrilla war chief. Well, guerrilla war chiefs don't have their mother bringing lunch to school. And I was telling her about all my conquests over the weekend, which were all lies, but I had a gang around me and they were all listening. And they wanted to believe me, I guess. But they were several war stories about exploitations and the like, sex and drugs. See, the interesting thing is, we make childhood virtue dependency, being supported by parents, abstinence, and then you're supposed to grow up and be undependent and be your own person, and what are all the ads saying? Sex is what being adult is, and the real macho people are smoking. I mean, that's going away some. But the cool guy is always smoking. And it's always like, this is the ideal. If you want to grow up, here's what you do. And that's a terrible thing. I really have great empathy for youngsters. So ambivalence, mood swings, desiring heart-to-heart talks and not wanting to talk, being loving and caring and being obnoxious. Anna Freud once wrote, at any other time of life, this would be neurotic, bordering on psychosis. At this time of life, it's normal. Now, if there are any adolescents watching, I don't mean this offensively. I mean this for your parents, trying to minister to them right now. But because of that, at any other time of life, this would be crazy. This time of life, it's normal. So I've suggested years ago, and many people have come to me and thanked me for this, that if you have adolescent children, you treat them as outpatients from a mental hospital. And I don't mean that offensively. I honestly don't. But if your Aunt Hannah was rolling in from Rusk is a state hospital here, and you said, "Hi, Hannah, how's it going?" And she said, "Get off my back! Can't you ever leave me alone?" You wouldn't get all upset. You'd just say, "It's Hannah." But see, if you say, "Hi, Guinevere, how's it going?" and she says, "Can't you ever leave me alone and butt out of my business?" Well, poor mama's all offended, and rightly so. She didn't do anything. So this ambivalence, this being in two worlds, you're not an adult and you're not a child. Remember Holden Caulfield, Catcher in the Rye? Half of his hair is gray. He's in two worlds. He wants to take care of Phoebe. He wants to be a catcher in the rye. He wants to stand in the rye and take care of little kids and keep them from falling off the cliff. Why? Because it's safe, man. He fantasizes, though. He fantasizes being a detective and making out with girls, and yet deep down he's in all this ambivalence. This is adolescence. Now try to hone in. Where are you with that? And what's your identity? Did you come out of this? Did you resolve the crisis? Did you get a sense of fidelity? Did you begin to build values? See, fidelity is the ego strength here. Did you begin to build values for you? Where are you with identity? Let me show you a little exercise you can do. I want somebody to come up here with me. Come on up here. I want to show you a little exercise, and I want all of you to do it. Hi, thank you for doing this. I've got a little microphone for you here. I'm going to sit across from you. And I want you all to do this too while I'm doing it. And those of you at home, if you're with somebody watching this, do it too. Here's an exercise. Now, I'm going to do it for about 2 minutes. But ideally, do this for 10 or 15 minutes. And here's what you do. Hi, who are you?
Pat Olivier.
Pat Olivier. Glad to know you, Pat.
Glad to know you.
Who are you really?
Who am I really? Well, I'm a professional person.
Okay, you're Pat Olivier, you're a professional person. And who are you really? Who are you? How will we know you lived?
How will I? Oh.
Yeah, how will we know?
Well, I'm a very loving, kind.
You're Pat Olivier, a professional person. You're very loving. You're very kind. Who are you really?
Let's see. I'm helpful. I like to help people. I'm in a profession that I help people, and I enjoy that.
Okay, you're Pat Olivier. You're a professional person. You help people in your profession. You're loving. You're kind. You like to help people. And who are you really?
Well, I'm a mother besides.
Ah, okay. You're a mother.
I'm also a grandmother.
You're also a grandmother. You're a mother and a grandmother, and now you're rolling. Good.
I'm also taking classes in school.
You're taking classes in school. Hey, wonderful. You've gone back to school, and so you're learning. You're a person who wants to learn. And
I'm doing a lot of things to recreate me into a useful person, because I always felt like I wasn't real useful.
Okay, so now you're discovering something else about yourself. You are a useful person, and you like yourself more, and you're willing to do that with yourself.
Right. And I'm taking all kinds of different workshops and things to help me with my work and to help other people.
Great. Okay. Now, for those of you watching, you see, we're so much more than our name. We're so much more than our profession. And often we have this outer reach for inner security. I'm John Bradshaw. I'm a lecturer at Palmer Episcopal Church. I'm John Bradshaw. I do counseling with people. I'm a consultant for Texas General Resources, an oil and gas mineral company. I mean, all of these are they are me, but I'm always more than all of that. And that's what we're getting to. And thank you so much for being willing to come up here. I just wanted to show you that. Do that with yourselves sometime. Take somebody that, and Pat, you also have courage. See, because it takes courage to do that. So that's something else I know about you. And you're willing to share with us. You also are open. See, identity is an inner sense that is matched by some significant other on the outside. You can't have identity alone. You can't have identity alone, although what we've been moving toward, hope, willpower, purpose, competence, now focuses in ego identity. It is the synthesis of all previous identifications. And what we will be going on to next week is going beyond ego identity, where we go into intimacy, where I lose myself to find myself. Now we begin talking about, see, ego transcendence as part of a healthy personality. That in order to fully grow, it's not enough now just to get here to ego. But the issue that we're talking about in the identity crisis is finding out who I am. The danger in this period is role diffusion. If a youngster doesn't begin to find out who he or she is, that is, who am I? What do I believe in? My mother and daddy were Catholics. My mother and daddy were Jewish. My mother and daddy were Baptists. My mother and daddy were Lutheran. Is that what I want to be? And almost every youngster goes through the first great aware religious doubt in this period. And as a matter of fact, it sort of bothers me sometime when a kid, 16 years old, just mouths back like a parrot some religious position, which is the position of his mother and daddy, which says to me that he's never seriously doubted it or questioned it. You see, this business of doubting and questioning and identity seeking is a business of like trying on things, because one of the characteristics of this period is experimentation. Every youngster is experimenting. And it's almost like we understand that in the culture. Erikson says we make a moratorium, which is almost a time of delayed adulthood, which is a safety package. Although interestingly enough, we generally give this more to males than we do females. Boys will be boys. Let them sort of mess around. But no daddy ever said, okay, Shirley, now I want you to go to sea and experience all you can, girl. And when you come home, you'll be a woman. No, sir. But see, we do that with men. Men are more allowed to have this moratorium. And that's causing a lot of conflict. A woman gets married at 20 and at 30 after 2.5 children or whatever you're supposed to have, getting it right. She starts realizing, I didn't even find out who I was, because so much of a female's identity is who do you marry. From the moment she's a little girl, and I'll be talking about this next week. The program's going to be called They Lived Happily Ever After, where we begin to look at some of the mythologies that people have been given, that you'll get it right if you get married. And find the right one, honey. You know, you got to find the right one, because your destiny and identity will be with who you marry. See, so the female part of this problem we're now seeing as a very troublesome one, that often in order to leave home she just marries somebody. And as a matter of fact, we're finding that oftentimes that's exact motivation. I mean, she thinks she's in love, but it's also a way of leaving, whereas daddy wouldn't give her, or mama wouldn't give her a moratorium. They wouldn't say, go on out, honey, and mess around for a while. And although a lot of college life is kind of a moratorium. I was a university professor, and I guarantee you, whole hordes of folks shouldn't be there. They're certainly not there for going to school. They're messing around. And so anyway, this is adolescence, identity versus role diffusion. And you see, the great danger here is going to negative identities. I ran with guys from broken homes. My daddy, God love him, was an alcoholic. He was gone. I gravitated to the guys from the broken homes. Our identity was a negative identity, shooting pool at Parker's Pool Hall, drinking beer every afternoon. We had this negative identity. We were like a band that bandied together, and we were all hurt, and we were lonely, and we were scared. But that's the way we bandied together. And a lot of youngsters are doing that. We have to try to understand that these youngsters are hurting. Anne Frank in her diary says, there is no lonelier time than now, this period. Of all the times of your life, there will never be a lonelier time than adolescence. And if you're not pretty in this society, if you're not big physically in the right places in this society, you know that song about the Valentines that never came? I mean, we've got stories that would absolutely put chills down all of our backs and bring tears to our eyes of the many young men and women who had to suffer through adolescence. This is a tough time. So have a lot of care and concern for this period. What's in it is the youth of a nation, our greatest natural resource. And these people need to have the opportunity to find their identity. And then ask yourself, where are you with it? Because I guarantee you, when I talk about this, it's incredible to me how quiet places get in terms of everybody dealing with this. And when we talk next week and the following week, and even when we come to old age, identity will come back again. It's not just something that's done once and for all. Identity is something that has to be looked at and renegotiated. You'll have to renegotiate it in the 30s. You'll have to renegotiate it in the 40s. You'll have to renegotiate it in the 50s. You'll have to renegotiate it at retirement. So where are you with that tonight? And think about it. Who are you? Where are you going? Who are all these others? Who do you love? What is your work? Who are your friends? What is it that you will live and die for? What are your values? What are your commitments that you really believe in from the bottom of your heart? Those are the identity questions. Now remember, if your answer is I don't know, hey, you can do something about that. What I've said every night as we've gone through this series is that it can all be different. People can make choices about their life and find this unique self that they are at any time in life. It is never too late. It is never too late. Everything can be changed. And there are plenty of us who can attest to that. At 31 years old, I was laying on a stretcher in a state hospital. I had no idea who I was. That was the tail end of 17 years of alcoholism. So everything can be different, obviously. I have changed. And sometimes when I look back on it, it's like a miracle to me. It's unbelievable to me that I could have been that same person laying on that stretcher in a state hospital, not knowing where I was going. You can change too. Everybody can change. That's the happy thought. What's in it is you. It's your life. And the choice is yours.